everyone, Carmen Broxma here with Choose Joy with Carmen, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I wanted to create a card using something from the Sale-A-Bration catalog and something from our current mini catalog. So I decided that I wanted to use this beautifully happy stamp set that is part of Sale-A-Bration. And so you have to put in $100 order in order to earn this one for free. And then I'm going to be using this fancy Flora 6x6 designer series paper that you'll find in the mini catalog. And this is the one that we're using today. And this is just a beautiful paper pack. I love it. And it was a real hard decision to decide which one to use, but I went ahead and chose this one. And then, of course, I've pulled out the ink pads that complement this paper. And my card base, however, I am going to be using Blushing Bright. And even though that is not one of the colors that's in that paper, I like the way that it matches. And because when they design these papers, you know, that they like, this is Calypso Coral, and I think they also have what else is in here that is in this paper. Well, it looks like Calypso Coral, but see, it's different shades of Calypso Coral, so it's not just all Calypso Coral. So I went ahead and I'm going to be using Blushing Bride, and then I am going to be using Calypso Coral as well. And I'm going to be using, like I said, this designer paper. And I think it's going to turn out to be a cute card. And I'm also going to be using this this heart frame die. And it's from the Frame Florets, because I just thought that would be so cute. Now, I haven't decided what sentiment I want to use yet. So let's go ahead and move this stuff aside and we'll get started on the card. Okay, so what I did was I have a piece of basic white here, and I've already cut it down to size, and all the dimensions will be on my blog for this card. And so what I did was I tried a couple different ways, and I thought this was the easiest way, was I cut my paper down to the size I wanted. And then I brought in the die, and then I went and lined it up where I wanted it so that I could make sure that I could try to get where it's going to cut off the hearts evenly. And so I lined it up the way I wanted it on my die cut machine. And then that way I could die cut it and then have this. So let me go ahead and pull in a scratch piece of paper so I don't get my desktop here all inked up. And I decided I wanted to stamp the floral image in soft suede. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to ink this up and then stamp this whole image. And we're going to try to get it in a nice area here. So, trying to decide where I want this exactly. Let's see. Let's see if that works. And then I'm just going to push it down because I'm not, you know, I probably should have used my Stamparatus. Then that way, if I didn't get it inked up enough, I would have a way to, oops, and I should have. So what I'm going to have to do now is, since I can't fix this, is let me go ahead and do this again, and I'll stamp it, and I'll be right back. Okay, that is definitely much better than the first one that I tried to do. And I didn't use the Stamparatus. I just was more careful about making sure I was inked up, and then made sure I, you know, pushed it down and rubbed it all over and made sure that I did it correctly this time. So now what I'm going to do is this stamp set has all the stamps that you can use for the coloring in of the elements here on this image. Now you can color it in different ways, but I decided I wanted to use this. So what I'm going to do is line this up first. And once I get it where I want it, then what I do is I go ahead and I take my block and then I pick up pick it up like that. So then that way it's exactly how I want it. So I'm going to do that off camera with coloring the leaves, and because it has it has the stamp to do the leaves, the flowers, and this part up here. Now this part up here is interesting, which I was because if you inked it all up, let me pull that in. If you inked it all up in one color, see, I want maybe the bottoms here and the leaves to be green, but I don't want those little balls, because to me they're buds of the flowers. I don't want them to be green. So what I'm going to probably have to do on that is do some coloring on my stamp with markers. So I would just color, with the marker, we'll go ahead and ink up the areas that I want a different color and do it that way. Because I mean, I suppose what I could do is stamp it all in the lighter green and then go back over it with the other one. I just don't know what that would look like. So this is just going to be a trial and error when it comes to that. Or what I could do is just color them in with um, my Stampin' Blends. But I really wanted to try to use the stamps that come in this set. So that's what I'm going to do, and we'll see how that works. And when I get all these stamped, I'll be back. Okay, so here it is, all stamped and colored in. Now, when it came to this one, I ended up deciding to, what I did was I inked up the stamp in the soft seafoam, stamped it down. Then I went ahead and cleaned my stamp, inked it up in Calypso Coral, and then I took my chamois and along with a blender pen, and I just kind of took off the ink on the leaves and kept cleaning my brush so that I wasn't putting the ink back on. And I just kept cleaning those, and then kind of, took my finger and went over it just so that it was dry. And then I went ahead and re-stamped it on top of the soft seafoam on those little buds. And I think it turned out fine because, the paper has different colors of, that Calypso Coral. So I liked it. I think it turned out okay. So now, and then I also did the inside there there's another little stamp. Where is it? This one. And I inked it up in Calypso Coral. So the flower was the Blushing Bright so that it would match the card base. The buds in the center's Calypso Coral. The leaves are soft seafoam. And those are the colors that are in this paper except for the Blushing Bride. So then I looked at the paper and I thought, well, there's some yellow in there. And I thought, I think we need to add a little yellow because it just seems really stark white. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take some of the Daffodil Delight, which is the yellow that's in here, and I'm going to sponge the edges. Probably I'm going to use a blending brush because I kind of like that look. And then I'm going to go in with the little dots, and I'm going to just stamp some dots around the flower to just, because we won't have, I thought about, doing the blending brush over the whole thing, but I didn't want to get I didn't want to get it on top of what I've already stamped. So that's what I'm going to do next, and then I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I really like the way that turned out. So what I did is I just took my blending brush and dipped it in the Daffodil Delight and went around the edges. And then it was still a little stark in the middle there. And so I just kind of cleaned off my brush in the bigger white areas so that, you know, tried to avoid getting on top of what I've already stamped in those colors. And then I took that little dot thing and I kind of just lined it up and went around areas around the flower. I just really like that. Hopefully you can see that in the camera, but I really like that. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to adhere this to a Calypso coral base because I wanted those hearts to really stand out. And then I'm going to go ahead and adhere my designer paper on Calypso coral as well. And then I'm going to adhere that to my card base. And then I'm going to adhere this to the front of the card, probably giving it like a border, the same border on these three sides. And then I'll figure out my sentiment and I'll come back and show you what I decided to do to finish off this card. Okay, I am back and I went ahead and got the cover done. And I did pop up this whole panel here with the Stampin' Dimensionals on the front. And I just wanted to give you a little hint here. So before I cut this down to the size I wanted, well, I knew I was going to have a pretty big focal point. And I really wanted to see a lot of this paper. So I thought to myself, well, let me go ahead and make sure instead of like cutting it here and covering up most of that, I decided to use this part over here for my front cover there. And sometimes I tend to like cut it down this way first, but because I wanted to make sure I had enough for the inside, I cut it this way first, so all the way across the bottom what I didn't need, so that way it would leave me with this long piece here so that I could use that to decorate the inside. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And the other thing, you know, I was using the big blending brush to do this and trying to get in those little crevices there. And had I owned, I just wanted to show you this, had I owned the small blending brushes, that might have helped me get into the little crevices there a little better. So in the new mini catalog, we now have small blending brushes, and I'm really excited. So I need to order them. Actually, I did order them. That's why it's highlighted here. But then I ended up using them as a gift. So I need to order more for me so that I have some on hand. So what I'm going to do now, and let me show you what I did for the inside, is I went ahead and took the blending brush again, and I did the outside, and then I cleaned it off and did a little bit of the Blushing Bride right there in the middle, and then I stamped the sentiment with the Calypso Coral, and then again added some more of those little dots in the two corners there. So now all I need to do is just lay this at the bottom and decide what part I want. That's the other nice thing about having it long, is you can decide like, well, do I want to make sure I have a lot of that green in there, or do I don't want a whole lot of green? So then you can move it down to the middle. So that's kind of the other reason why it's nice to do it that way. So I'll go ahead and get that done. And then I'm going to also use my favorite embellishments, which are the brushed brass butterflies. I'm going to be using them on the front of the card. And then when I get all that done, I'll come back and show you the finale. And then we will be done with this card. Be right back. Okay, so here it is with the embellishments. And I forgot to say also that I stamped the Kindness Matters in soft suede down there at the bottom. And I pulled that from the Beautifully Happy stamp set because it was nice and small. And I didn't want to add any more to this card because I didn't want to cover up this beautiful paper any more than I already did. So I went ahead and just put that there. And then I was running out of my small butterfly, so I ended up using 3 of the larger ones and put one up there, one on that flower, and one down here by the sentiment. And then, so it says Kindness Matters, and you open it up, and then it says thank you with all my heart. So I really like that. I hope you enjoyed that as well. So I will put all the dimensions and the supplies I used on my blog, and I will put that link to that blog post in the description below so that you can find it easily. And just hope you enjoyed that. And thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my video today. And until my next video, remember, choose joy, and may God bless you. Bye-bye, everyone.